I still can't look at the sky the same way. 20 years ago tonight, June 5th going into June 6th, 1944, I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane over Nazi-occupied France. They tell me it was the largest invasion in history, that we were heroes, that we changed the course of the war. Maybe we did, but all I remember is being 21 years old and more terrified than I'd ever been in my life. My name's Daniel Kowalski, South Side Chicago, Polish neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. I enlisted in 42, right after Pearl Harbor. Seemed like the thing to do. My old man fought in the First War, came back different, and I thought I understood what that meant. I didn't understand a goddamn thing. They assigned me to the 101st Airborne Division, the Screaming Eagles, Paratroopers. Jump school at Fort Benning was hell, but I made it through. We were supposed to be elite, special, the tip of the spear. What we were was kids playing at being soldiers, about to learn what war actually meant. We trained in England for months, endless drills, practice jumps, briefings about the invasion everyone knew was coming, but nobody could talk about. The waiting was almost worse than the fighting would be. Almost. They locked us down at the airfield in late May. No more passes, no more letters home. We knew it was coming soon. You could feel it in the air, that electric tension of something massive about to break. June 4th, they briefed us, showed us maps, aerial photos, told us our objectives. We were dropping behind Utah Beach, supposed to secure causeways and bridges, disrupt German reinforcements. Simple enough on paper. Nothing's simple when people are shooting at you. My stick, that's what we called the guys jumping from the same plane. We'd been together since training. There was Jimmy Santos from Texas, always making jokes, even when nothing was funny. Carl Jensen from Minnesota, quiet kid who wrote poetry in a little notebook he kept in his pocket. Mike O'Brien from Boston, tough guy who'd been a boxer before the war. And Tommy Garcia from New Mexico, youngest of us all. Just turned 19. We were brothers. That's what they don't tell you about war. You don't fight for your country or for freedom or for any of the big words they use in speeches. You fight for the guy next to you because he's fighting for you. June 5th, late afternoon, they fed us steak and eggs. Last meal for some of us, though nobody said it out loud. We tried to eat, but most of us just pushed the food around our plates. My stomach was tied in knots. We geared up as the sun went down. Jesus, the weight of it all. Parachute on your back, reserve chute on your front, rifle, ammunition, grenades, rations, first aid kit, gas mask, entrenching tool. Over 100 pounds of equipment on top of what you already weighed. We could barely move, could barely fit through the door of the C-47. They painted our faces with soot, made us look like demons. Or maybe that's just what we were about to become. Someone started singing, nervous energy needing somewhere to go. Others joined in. I don't remember what song it was. Doesn't matter. Around 2,200 hours, they loaded us onto the planes. The C-47s lined up on the runway, engines roaring, propellers spinning, hundreds of planes, thousands of paratroopers, all heading into the darkness over the English Channel. I took one last look at England as we climbed into the plane. Thought about my mother back in Chicago, probably saying the rosary for me right about now. She always knew when something was wrong, even from thousands of miles away. The plane lurched forward. We were moving, no going back now. Tommy was sitting across from me in the dim light of the cabin. His face was pale, eyes wide. "You scared?" he asked. "Terrified," I said. No point lying about it. He nodded. "Me too." The plane lifted off. Through the open door, I could see other planes forming up around us, a massive aerial armada heading into the night. Below us, the lights of England faded away. Ahead was only darkness. And somewhere in that darkness, the Germans were waiting. The flight across the channel took about an hour, but it felt like 5 minutes and 5 years all at once. We sat there in the darkness, packed shoulder to shoulder, trying not to think about what was coming. Some guys prayed, some slept or pretended to. Jimmy kept making jokes that nobody laughed at. I checked my gear for the 10th time, 11th time. Lost count. Just something to do with my hands to keep from thinking too hard. The crew chief came back from the cockpit. 20 minutes, he shouted over the engine noise. 20 minutes. I felt my stomach drop. We started hitting flak around 0100 hours. You could hear it exploding around the plane, sharp cracks like thunder, close enough to make the aircraft shudder. Shrapnel pinged off the fuselage. Someone whispered, "Hail Mary," over and over. Through the door, I could see other planes in the formation. Then I watched one get hit, direct strike, right engine exploding in flames. It spiraled down, corkscrewing into the darkness with 18 men inside, just gone, like it was never there. Nobody said anything. What could you say? 10 minutes, hook up. We stood, clumsy with all the gear, hooked our static lines to the cable running down the center of the plane. The static line would pull your chute open automatically when you jumped. Supposed to, anyway. Sometimes they didn't work. Sometimes guys fell all the way down. Don't think about that. Don't think about anything except the next thing you have to do. Sound off for equipment check. 16 okay from the back of the stick. 15 okay. 14 okay. Down the line it came, each man checking the gear of the guy in front of him. When it got to me, 2 okay. Jimmy was jump master, first out the door. 1 okay, he shouted. The red light came on above the door. Stand by. The plane was shaking like it wanted to tear itself apart. Flak bursting all around us now, so thick you could almost walk on it. Another plane exploded off our right wing. Orange flash, then nothing but burning debris falling into the night. The pilot was taking evasive action, banking hard left, then right, trying to dodge the anti-aircraft fire. It threw us around like dice in a cup. Carl fell, weighted down by his gear. Mike hauled him back up. 30 seconds. We shuffled toward the door. I could see Jimmy standing there, hands gripping the sides of the doorway, staring out into the darkness and the tracers and the explosions. He looked back at us one last time, gave us that crazy grin of his. See you on the ground, boys. The light turned green. Jimmy disappeared into the night. Then Santos, then Jensen, then O'Brien, then me. I stepped into nothing. The prop blast hit me like a fist, spinning me around. Noise and wind and chaos. I was tumbling, couldn't tell up from down. Then the jerk of the chute opening. Thank God it opened. And suddenly I was floating. For about 2 seconds, it was almost peaceful, quiet after the roar of the plane. Just me and the silk canopy above and the darkness below. Then all hell broke loose. Tracers everywhere. The Germans were shooting at us, at all of us. Red and green streaks lighting up the sky like some deadly fireworks show. I could hear bullets snapping past. Could hear other guys shouting, screaming. A paratrooper above me got hit. His chute collapsed. He fell past me, arms flailing, too far away to help. I heard him hit. That sound, I still hear it sometimes. The ground was coming up fast, too fast. I couldn't see anything clearly, just dark shapes and the muzzle flashes of German guns. I was supposed to land in a drop zone near Sainte-Mère-Église. Had no idea where I actually was. The pilots had scattered us all over Normandy, planes taking evasive action, dropping us early, dropping us late, dropping us anywhere but where we were supposed to be. I tried to steer the chute, pulling on the risers, but I had no control. The wind just took me where it wanted. Trees. I saw trees. Oh, God, I was heading straight for the trees. I hit the branches hard, parachute snagged. I was hanging there, maybe 15 feet off the ground, tangled in my lines, swaying back and forth. Could hear Germans shouting nearby. Could hear gunfire. Could hear men dying. I fumbled for my knife, started cutting myself free. Had to get down, had to get out of this harness before... Bullets chewed up the tree trunk next to me. Splinters exploded everywhere. Someone had seen me hanging there, lit up like a target. I cut the last line and dropped. Hit the ground hard. All that gear came down on top of me, knocked the wind out of my lungs. Lay there gasping, waiting for bullets to tear into me. Nothing happened. Slowly I rolled over, got my rifle up, looked around. I was alone, in occupied France, in the dark, with Germans somewhere nearby. And I had absolutely no idea where I was. The cricket saved my life. Sounds stupid, but it's true. They'd given us these little metal clickers before we took off, toy crickets that made a clicking sound. 1 click was the challenge, 2 clicks the response. It was how we'd recognize each other in the dark. Simple, effective, unless you lost yours, which a lot of guys did in the jump. I still had mine. Held on to that little piece of metal like it was made of gold. I lay there in the Norman hedgerow for what felt like hours, but was probably 5 minutes, trying to get my breathing under control, trying to figure out which way was up. My ankle hurt, sprained it in the landing, but nothing seemed broken. Small mercies, voices, German voices, close, maybe 20 yards away. I pressed myself into the dirt, made myself as small as possible, prayed they wouldn't see me, prayed my chute wasn't visible in the tree above me, prayed for a lot of things that probably didn't matter anymore. They passed by. I heard their boots, their conversation, the clink of equipment. Then they were gone. I waited another few minutes, then slowly got up, every muscle screaming, checked my rifle, barrel full of mud. Great. Took me 10 minutes to clear it in the dark, working by feel. Click, click. Off to my left. The cricket. I froze. Was it one of ours? Or had the Germans figured out the system already? Click. I answered with 1 click. Click, click. 2 clicks back. A shape materialized out of the darkness. Chicago, a voice whispered. The password. Cubs, I answered. The countersign. It was a kid from Easy Company, 506 Regiment. Couldn't have been more than 18. You know where we are? He asked. No idea. Me neither. Lost my whole stick. We stuck together. 2 was better than 1. Started moving, trying to find anyone else, trying to get our bearings. The hedgerows were a nightmare. Thick walls of earth and vegetation that turned Normandy into a maze. Couldn't see more than a few yards ahead. We found Tommy Garcia hanging from a tree, dead, shot while still in his harness. His eyes were open, staring at nothing. The kid from Easy Company threw up. I cut Tommy down. Couldn't leave him hanging there. Took his ammunition, his grenades. Sounds cold, but the dead don't need ammunition. The living do. Sorry, Tommy, I whispered. He'd been 19 years old. Never even got to fight. Just hung there and died while Germans used him for target practice. We moved on. Had to. Couldn't help Tommy anymore. Found more bodies as the night went on. Some American, some German. Some so torn up you couldn't tell which side they'd been on. Paratroopers scattered everywhere. Most of them lost. Most of them alone. All of us trying to figure out what the hell we were supposed to do now. The plan, that careful, detailed plan they'd briefed us on, that was gone. Blown away by the scattered drop, by the chaos, by the reality that no plan survives first contact with the enemy. We were just trying to survive now, trying to find each other, trying to accomplish something, anything, that might help the guys landing on the beaches at dawn. Dawn. That's when the main invasion was coming. Thousands of men in boats heading for those beaches. We were supposed to be behind German lines by then, causing confusion, blocking reinforcements. Instead, we were scattered all over hell and gone, lost in the dark, dying in 1s and 2s. But we kept moving. That's what you do. You keep moving. We found a small group near what we later learned was Sainte-Mère-Église, maybe 8 or 9 paratroopers from different units. A lieutenant from the 82nd took charge. He was older, maybe 30, and he seemed to know what he was doing. That was enough. We need to find the causeway, he said. Block any German armor moving toward the beaches. Nobody asked what we were supposed to block tanks with. We had rifles and a couple of bazookas. No heavy weapons, no support, just us. We moved through the bocage, those damned hedgerows, and ran into a German patrol. The firefight was quick, brutal, close range, muzzle flashes in the dark, screaming, the smell of gunpowder and blood. When it was over, 3 Germans were dead. So was the kid from Easy Company. Caught a burst in the chest. He died fast, at least. Small mercy. We didn't have time to bury him, just kept moving. That's what June 6th was like. Moving through the darkness, stumbling into firefights, losing men, finding more, losing them again. No grand strategy, no heroic stands, just chaos and confusion, and men trying not to die. The sun came up around 600. We could hear the naval bombardment then, the big guns from the ships offshore pounding the beaches. The invasion had started. Men were dying on those beaches. We could hear it, even from miles inland. We'd made it through the night, some of us anyway, but the day was just beginning, and the day would be worse. By mid-morning, June 6th, we'd linked up with more scattered elements, maybe 30 guys total from different units, different sticks, different planes, all mixed together like someone had shaken us in a bag and poured us out random. The lieutenant, his name was Morrison, first name I never learned, he organized us as best he could. We still had no idea exactly where we were, but we knew we were somewhere behind Utah Beach. Could hear the fighting from the coast, could see smoke rising. A runner found us around 1,000 hours. Young kid, out of breath, scared, said there was a German position blocking one of the causeways. Machine guns, mortars, maybe 40 or 50 Germans dug in. We needed to take it out. 40 to 50 Germans. We had 30 men, scattered paratroopers with whatever equipment we'd managed to keep. No heavy weapons, no artillery support, no backup. Morrison looked at us. We looked at him. What were we going to say? No? We moved on the position around noon, used the hedgerows for cover, trying to stay low. The Germans had set up in a farmhouse complex, stone buildings, good fields of fire, well-positioned machine guns. They'd been there since before D-Day, dug in, prepared. We were exhausted, scared, running on adrenaline and fear. Morrison split us into 2 groups. One would provide covering fire while the other flanked around to the side. Basic infantry tactics from the manual. Except the manual doesn't account for how terrified you are, how tired, how everything is chaos and noise and confusion. The first group opened up. Machine guns, rifles, everything we had. The Germans returned fire immediately. Disciplined, controlled bursts. They knew what they were doing. My group started moving around the flank. Crawling through hedgerows, through fields, through mud and shit and dead livestock that had been there for days. That's when I saw Mike O'Brien. He was already dead, had been for hours. Found him in a ditch with 2 other paratroopers. They'd been caught by a German patrol during the night, shot and left where they fell. Mike from Boston, the boxer, the guy who'd pulled Carl up in the plane when he fell. Dead in a ditch in France. No time to think about it. Keep moving. We came up on the German flank just as they were repositioning to deal with Morrison's group. Caught them exposed. We opened fire. The firefight lasted maybe 10 minutes, but felt like hours. Germans falling, some of our guys falling. Grenades exploding. Someone screaming. Can't remember if it was us or them or both. Then it was over. The Germans who weren't dead pulled back, abandoned the position. We'd done it. Taken the farmhouse. Cost us 8 men, 8 more names I'd have to remember. We held that position all day. Germans counterattacked twice. We beat them back both times, but barely. Running low on ammunition, running on empty, but we held. Other groups of paratroopers started finding us. By nightfall, we had maybe 100 men at the farmhouse. Still no idea of the bigger picture, still just holding our little piece of ground and hoping it mattered. Someone said the beach landings had succeeded. Omaha had been hell, but they'd made it off the beach. Utah had gone better. The invasion was holding. We were winning. Didn't feel like winning, felt like surviving. June 7th was more of the same. Germans probing our positions. Small firefights. Casualties trickling in. We were supposed to link up with forces from the beach, but the Germans had other ideas. They were fighting for every hedgerow, every field, every inch. I found Jimmy Santos on June 8th. Ran into him at a crossroads near some town I couldn't pronounce. He was with a group from another battalion, had been fighting his own war since the drop. We grabbed each other, laughed like crazy men. Both of us had thought the other was dead. Told you I'd see you on the ground, he said. Carl Jensen never made it. Heard later he'd landed in a swamp, drowned in 3 feet of water, too weighed down by his gear to get out of his chute. The poetry notebook was probably still in his pocket. Tommy Garcia, Mike O'Brien, Carl Jensen. 3 names out of my stick. How many more across Normandy? How many hanging in trees, drowning in swamps, shot in the dark? They don't tell you about that in the movies. They show the jump, show the fighting, show the heroism. Don't show the days and weeks of grinding combat after, the slow bleed of casualties, the exhaustion that settles into your bones and never leaves. We fought through June, hedgerow to hedgerow, village to village. Every field a potential killing ground. The Germans fought hard, gave up nothing easy. We paid in blood for ground that didn't seem worth dying for. But we took it anyway. Because that's what you do. You take the next field, the next hedgerow, the next village. You keep moving forward even when everything in you wants to stop. By the end of June, we'd pushed inland several miles. The beachhead was secure. More troops were landing every day, supplies flowing in. The invasion had succeeded. But the war wasn't over, not even close. We still had France to liberate, then Belgium, then Germany itself. The guys who jumped on D-Day, those of us who survived, we had a long way to go, and we were already so tired. We stayed in Normandy until late July. 43 days of constant combat, 43 days of hedgerows and death. They finally pulled us back for rest and refit when we got to St. Lo. Rest, that's a funny word. You can rest your body, but not your mind. The fighting stops, but the war keeps going in your head. We'd lost more than half the men who'd jumped on D-Day. Some killed in the drop, more in the weeks after. Replacements came in, fresh-faced kids who looked at us like we were ghosts. Maybe we were. Jimmy Santos made it through Normandy. So did Lieutenant Morrison. A few others I'd fought beside. We didn't talk about the guys who didn't make it. Talking about them made it real, and we needed them to stay unreal a little longer. They sent us to England to rebuild the division. New men, new equipment. We trained them, tried to teach them how to survive what we'd survived. Most of them listened, some didn't. The ones who didn't usually died first. In September, we jumped into Holland, Operation Market Garden. Another airborne assault supposed to end the war by Christmas. It didn't. Turned into another grinding fight, more casualties, more names to remember. I got hit in Holland, shrapnel in my leg from a mortar round. Not bad enough to send me home, just bad enough to hurt like hell. They patched me up, sent me back to the line. By December, we were in Belgium, a place called Bastogne. Germans launched a massive counteroffensive, the Battle of the Bulge. Surrounded us, cut us off, told us to surrender. We didn't surrender. We held. For a week in the coldest winter in decades, we held that town against everything the Germans threw at us. Running out of ammunition, running out of medical supplies, running out of everything except the will to not give up. That's where I broke. It was Christmas Eve. We were in a frozen foxhole, Jimmy and me, artillery falling, Germans attacking, cold so deep it hurt to breathe. And I just couldn't anymore. Started shaking. Couldn't stop. Crying, laughing, couldn't tell which. Everything I'd been holding in since June 6th came pouring out all at once. Jimmy grabbed me, held on tight. Stay with me, Danny. Stay with me. I don't know how long it lasted. A few minutes, maybe. Felt like forever. When it passed, I was empty, hollowed out. Nothing left inside. I'm sorry, I said. Nothing to be sorry for, Jimmy said. We all break sometime. You just got to put yourself back together after. But what if you can't? What if the pieces don't fit anymore? We got relieved in January. Patton's army broke through, drove off the Germans. We'd held Bastogne. Another victory. More medals. More dead. They sent us back to France to rest again. This time they meant it. The division was spent, used up. We'd done our part. Time for fresh troops to take over. In March, they told us we were going home. The European war was winding down. Germany was collapsing. We'd done enough. I should have been happy, should have been celebrating. But I felt nothing. Just that same hollowness from Christmas Eve, like someone had scooped out my insides and left me empty. We sailed from Le Havre in April. Germany surrendered while we were mid-Atlantic. VE Day. Victory in Europe. The war was over. On the ship, everyone celebrated. Drinking, singing, laughing. I stood on deck and looked back at Europe disappearing behind us. Thought about Tommy hanging in that tree, Mike in the ditch, Carl in the swamp, all the others whose names I knew, and the hundreds more whose names I didn't. We won. That's what they kept saying. We won. But it didn't feel like winning. It felt like I'd left pieces of myself scattered across France and Belgium and Holland. Like I was coming home incomplete. New York Harbor looked just like it had when we'd left. Statue of Liberty, crowds cheering, bands playing. They treated us like heroes, gave us parades, medals, free drinks in every bar. I went through the motions, smiled when I was supposed to smile, waved when I was supposed to wave, said the right things to the reporters and the pretty girls and the old men who wanted to shake my hand. Inside, I was still in that frozen foxhole on Christmas Eve, shaking and crying and breaking apart. 20 years. That's how long it's been since I jumped into Normandy. June 6th, 1944 to June 6th, 1964, 2 decades, half my life. They want me to talk about it now, want me to tell stories for the anniversary, for the history books, for the kids who weren't born yet when it happened. They want to know what it was like to be part of the greatest generation, to storm Fortress Europe, to liberate the continent. I don't know how to tell them what they want to hear. The nightmares still come. Not every night anymore, but often enough. I'm in the plane again, or hanging in the tree, or in that foxhole at Bastogne. Sometimes I'm trying to cut Tommy down. Sometimes I'm drowning in the swamp with Carl. The details change, but the feeling is always the same. That crushing weight of fear and helplessness and knowing men are dying and you can't stop it. My wife, Sarah, she understands better than most. We met in 47, got married in 48. She knew what she was getting into. I told her up front that I wasn't the same person who'd left Chicago in 42. She married me anyway. We have 3 kids now. 2 boys and a girl. Good kids. I love them, I think, in whatever way I'm still capable of loving. But there's always distance. Always that wall I can't quite get past. My oldest boy is 17. A couple years from now, he might get drafted for Vietnam. The thought keeps me up at night. Not because I don't think he should serve if called, but because I know what it'll do to him. I know what war does to boys, how it grinds them up and spits out something else. I see Jimmy sometimes. He lives in Texas now, married, 4 kids, runs a construction business. We don't talk about the war much when we get together. Don't need to. We both know. We both carry it. He told me once that he still clicks his tongue twice when he hears a cricket. The metal clicker is long gone, but the reflex stayed. 20 years later, still answering the challenge. I went back to work at the steel mill after I got home. Same job I'd had before the war. The mill didn't change. The guys didn't change. Everything was exactly like I'd left it, except me. Lasted 3 years before I had to quit. Couldn't handle the noise, the banging, the crashes, the sounds that were too much like artillery. Started having panic attacks on the floor. They tried to work with me, but eventually it was easier for everyone if I left. Took me years to find work I could handle. Finally ended up as a night watchman. Quiet job. Alone most of the time. Suited me fine. People ask if I'm proud of what we did, if I think D-Day was worth it, if I'd do it again. I don't know how to answer that. We stopped Hitler, liberated Europe, saved millions of lives. Those are facts. Important facts. The world is better because we did what we did. But the cost was pieces of ourselves we'll never get back. Tommy Garcia was 19. Carl Jensen was 22. Mike O'Brien was 24. They never got to get married, have kids, build lives. They never got to see 1950 or 1960 or today. They're still hanging in trees, still in ditches, still in swamps, forever young, while the rest of us got old. And the ones who survived, we survived, but we didn't come back. Not really. We left something over there that we could never retrieve. Came home with holes where pieces used to be. The Army taught us how to jump out of planes, how to kill Germans, how to take objectives. Nobody taught us how to come home, how to sleep without nightmares, how to stop flinching at sudden noises, how to be normal again when normal stopped existing on June 6, 1944. My youngest asked me last week why I never talk about the war. She's learning about D-Day in school, wants to know what her daddy did. I told her I was a paratrooper, that I jumped into France, that we fought to liberate Europe. She asked if I killed anyone. I couldn't answer that. Changed the subject. How do you tell your daughter that, yes, you killed men, some of them up close enough to see their faces? How do you explain that sometimes you still see those faces in your dreams? The anniversary is in 3 days. They're having ceremonies at Normandy, at Arlington, at monuments across the country. They want veterans to attend, to be honored, to be remembered. I don't think I can go, don't think I can stand there while they talk about glory and heroism and sacrifice. Don't think I can smile while they reduce that night and everything that followed to speeches and medals and pretty words that don't mean anything, because D-Day wasn't glorious. It was terrifying. It was boys dying in trees, drowning in swamps, bleeding out in ditches. It was chaos and confusion, and men doing their best to survive the next 5 minutes. We did our job. We took the beaches. We liberated France. We won the war. But we didn't win anything for ourselves. We just survived. And survival isn't victory when you spend the next 20 years wishing you could forget. Jimmy called me yesterday. Said he's going to the ceremony at Arlington. Asked if I wanted to come with him. I told him I'd think about it. Maybe I will go. Not for the speeches or the medals or the recognition, but for Tommy and Carl and Mike and all the others who didn't make it home. Someone should stand there and remember them for who they were, not for how they died. They were just kids. We all were. Kids who jumped out of planes into the darkness because someone told us to. Kids who fought and bled and broke because we didn't know how not to. 20 years later, I'm 41 years old. Got gray in my hair, lines on my face, a limp from the shrapnel in my leg. Look in the mirror and see a middle-aged man staring back. But close my eyes and I'm 21 again, standing in the door of that C-47, watching the red light, waiting for it to turn green. Still waiting to jump, still falling through the darkness. Still trying to land safely somewhere I don't recognize. I still can't look at the sky the same way. Every time I see planes flying overhead, I'm back there. Every time. 20 years later, still falling, still waiting to hit the ground. They tell me time heals all wounds. 20 years should be enough, shouldn't it? But some wounds don't heal. They just become part of you, scar tissue that aches when the weather changes. D-Day was 20 years ago tonight, the longest night of my life. And in some ways, it never ended. I'm still there, still fighting, still trying to find my way home in the darkness, still hearing the click-click of that metal cricket, still answering with 2 clicks of my own, still waiting for someone to tell me it's over, that I can stop fighting now, that I can finally come home. But home is a place that doesn't exist anymore. Or maybe I'm the one who doesn't exist anymore. The boy who jumped out of that plane died somewhere over Normandy. What came back was someone else entirely. 20 years. And I still can't look at the sky the same way.